Thousands of people who work for themselves have discovered they don't qualify for government grants designed to help self-employed people. The Chancellor has announced a multi-million-pound scheme for the self-employed, so why are some missing out? Our business correspondent Dave Harvey has been speaking to some of them.
So personally, I'm lucky. I've had about half of my work cancelled, about a quarter a bit postponed, and about a quarter has paid.
It's come to this. Losing 3/4 of your work is now a lucky break. The potter's kiln is cold. The pots sit unglazed. Under the government's rescue package, self-employed people like Sophie will eventually get 80% of their average income.
Well, when will you get the money in? How does that
June,
work?
so that's great. So we've got to find the money to live until then. Some of us are lucky enough to have savings. Those that don't, we've got no idea what we're going to do.
We do a lot of the big events and festivals that happen in the southwest. Cheltenham Food Festival, Eat Festivals. Unfortunately, due to coronavirus, they've all been cancelled or postponed.
Cake baker Becca Luger thought she would get the same grant. But I've discovered she and thousands like her have fallen through the cracks in the government's rescue package.
Although Becca clearly does work for herself, she does so through a limited company, which is called Crumpet Cakes. It has a director, Becca, and one employee, also Becca. The company pays for all this, the rent and all the equipment, and it pays her a small wage. Now, although that looks like self-employment, it means that Becca doesn't actually fill out a self-assessment tax return. And without one of those, you don't qualify for the self-employment grants.
So immediately my heart sank because I thought, how on earth am I going to be able to cover my business costs if I can't get access to the self-employment scheme?
The baker is now a campaigner, gathering other people in the same situation together. And there is, say experts, at least one source of help, although it's not enough.
So if they're part of a limited company, the only support they have at the moment is to essentially lay themselves off and claim some income for the wages they've paid for themselves. But that's not ideal for companies because they have outgoings, they have to keep the things ticking over, and it means they're stuck in a limbo.
Unfortunately, it's going to fall a very long way short of what we need it to do, and a lot of businesses like me are going to be left to struggle. So we really need the government to go back, revise all of those packages and offer company directors actually the same benefits as the self-employment scheme. We really need them to revise all of these packages and make sure no one slips through the net.
And Dave is with me now. Dave, a lot of viewers saying similar things.
Absolutely. Big thanks to all the dozens of small traders and businesses who got in touch with us. We've heard from lots of people. People like Felix Sanders, for instance, who runs a hog roast. No call for that right now, is there? And look at that. He says he's fallen through the net of just every scheme. His only hope of money is possibly the self-employed scheme by June. He hopes his landlord will be understanding. I hope if Philip's landlord is watching, he could be quite understanding to a man who runs a hog roast, couldn't he? So many different occupations are ruled out by this. Swimming teachers, of course, when you think about it. Up in Gloucester, we heard from Carolyn Hutchinson. Look at that. She says she's been trying to get hold of universal credit, but she has to put her identity through the computer mill, and she waited for 104,000 people in the queue, 12 hours, only to be told her identity can't be verified. Now, they've processed more than 500,000 people for universal credit, but still, people like Carolyn are left sort of gnashing their teeth. And finally, the housing market we heard from. David Allen, a surveyor, literally locked out of people's houses. He's another one-man band, not covered by these self-employment grants. So he says he contributes a great deal of tax, and yet the government has deemed it too difficult to work out how to support people like me. Big schemes from the government, but an awful lot of people out there still struggling to make sense of them.
Your heart really goes out to them. Dave, thank you for that. A group of mums who usually go running to